It has been 4 years since John was declared dead. After he knew that Fireteam Osiris had been tasked to hunting him down, he tried to avoid to be detected. But he knew eventually if he would come across one other human colonies, he knew it would only be a matter of time before anyone noticed him. And he knew that he couldn't go to any of the allied worlds either, because he had no idea if any one of those allies would betray him, or at least if someone did notice him. So he decided, after that he has been officially declared dead the year 2558, he decided to abandon his former military life and go somewhere far away as possible. But where to go? He managed to get his own ship. A small ship, but fast enough for him to be unavoidably being detected for most military sources. Do his training, and know that most of it, all the other deploys of stations, outposts, where most hyperlanes of military transport goes to, he was able to find a remote planet where he can find sanctuary. He landed on the planet, but thanks to some of his training and some of the equipment he had on board, he managed to build his own home, a small cabin near a lake on the particular planet. This planet was so far remote, almost near the edge of the galaxy, and so far the military has no reason to go to this planet because this planet has no strategic value of any value of resources or technical resources or anything. So he thought he could be safe. And for most of the 4 years after he'd been on the run, he lived a perfect life there. Even during the first few months, he had to survive some of the bad storms, but the planet seems to be perfect for him. He still continued to perform his military training just to be able if something would happen. But during all this time, he misses to be at his old home, but he knew it would have been too dangerous to go back to his home planet. He could not stand to just go back. He was one of the most decorated war veterans in the United Nations Space Command, serving for over 30 years. But he knew, once a soldier, always a soldier. Even though that he living on this particular planet just so far away from anyone else, he had also been starting exploring the planet where he lived on. He wanted to have something to spend his time, because he knew though, rather than not doing anything would make him go insane. But luckily from his military training and that he had a spaceship to traveling around. He traveled around the planet for just exploration. And he wondered, could it been any signs of any civilization on the planet, primitive or advanced? But so far, there was nothing. There was nothing. This planet has apparently never had any signs of civilization. But during all his time on this particular planet, he had most of the time he had felt lonely. Even after that, he wanted to reach out to some of his former colleagues to go back to service. But he knew that could be dangerous, especially now when the fight team was after him. He knew that they would never find him on this particular planet. because this ship that he had with him had no tracking system. Normally, they would be able to track him down, but with some ships. But he managed to take a ship that didn't have any sort of tracking device on it, because this ship was almost 50 years old. And before he managed to escape, he had equipped with the most advanced tools, equipment that he could use. But before he even left, he left a message to Catherine Halsey. He told Catherine that he wished he could stay and be with her. He revealed to her that he actually had feelings for her, even though that she knew, even that he even wanted to just have in contact with her, but he knew it would be too risky. Because if they managed to figure out that she had been in contact with him over this past few years, they would easily be able to track him down. And that meant he probably ended up in jail, or probably even worse, executed. So he thought maybe keeping Catherine away from all of this. Even he wanted to see her, even for a moment. But at the same time, he wanted to stay away from her. Not because he wanted to, because keep her safe. Around the same time, on a ship so far away from the planet, which he called Orion. He called his planet Orion for some reason. But so far away from Orion, it was Catherine Halsey. She was on a science vessel. Even on this ship she was on with some crew, she still had feelings toward her friend John. She wanted to see him. But even after all this happened, she had no idea if things were going to work. She knew that he had she had some feelings that he was still alive and he was safe. Even so shortly after that, he just disappeared. Some of the government's agents tried to interrogate her, tried to make some information from her where they can find him. But she didn't even knew. Even if she did knew, she would never reveal this. Even it would consider to be heard as a traitor to the government, to the United, for all of this. But she would never reveal where he was located, even if you had an idea. But after being in love with him for so long, she wanted to just go be with him. But even if she did manage to escape or just resign from the side, from her duties and just go search for him, she knows it is almost impossible. Consider how many planets there are in the galaxy. But she also has an idea that he would never go to a planet that was heavily populated by any sign of closed military or civilian planet. Even if that was a risk for that. So she had in mind that he probably would have chosen a planet far away as any of those closest colonies. But doing so, it still even doesn't even reveal exactly where he could be located. But before he left, he managed to give her a note, leaving some sort of coordinates for where he could have been located. Even that she knew this could have been very, very dangerous, not only for her, but for him. She managed to keep this secret because she managed to make a secret compartment in one of her shoes where she kept this note in just for safety. And one day she had enough of this been doing for as a scientist. She decided maybe it was time to just leave. And she did. She informed her her boss and the others in the scientist community that she decided to leave. She resigned, even though they were not accepted, but she said she had been serving the government and the others for so long time, and she thought maybe it was time to retire, and she did. Just shortly before she retired, she managed to get a hand of a small ship, and she left. But at the same time, when she left, some of the government had tried to convince her to go back, or maybe take a secret mission. Try to find Jan and secretly reveal where he is located, and that she would not be branded as a traitor but as a hero to the government and to the community for this everyone. But she refused. Why would she do why would she betray an old friend of hers because they wanted to? And of course, she knew they would never just let her go by like that. So after she left her home planet, she went to this particular planet where she could find another ship because she knew that the fire team Osiris was on her heels. They had managed to track her down, and she was not happy about this. She was literally furious how much they tried to convince her once again to escape, or at least try to convince her betraying her friend John, but she didn't. When she arrived at this big planet, there was a big colony, somewhat around at least several thousands of people. She managed to land in one of those most busiest spaceports, where she was managed to get rid of her followers and even track down another ship and bought it. And this ship was in a different model. And her pursuers tried to locate her, but around the time when they thought they found her, she had already left the planet. 2 hours later, they had lost track of her, and they tried to ask around the planet where she'd be located, but no one has seen her. Even the dealer who sold the ship to her denied or said that he never seen her. They had finally lost, or unfortunately, they lost the track of her. But now, Catherine had something else to do. She needed to do her most secret mission to be that is to locate John. With the note, she tracked coordinated coordinates in the computer system's navigation system, and she went to the location. And just around the same time, the computer said it would take her at least 28 hours travel. At least what she thought. From computer said 24 to 48 hours in space travel. So she went decided to spend time. Around the time when she was on the way to the planet Orion, John had been traveling around on the planet himself and been training just in case if something would happen. He had even spent on time on the moon of Orion, where he had built some sort of sensor system that would detect any ships in the area or within the next 5 light years of the planet. And he had hoped that this system would never be detect any ship at all. But with the next 2 days, everything was perfect until the ship on board on the planet get out a warning signal. A ship was approaching, and he had fears that the fire team Osiris had finally tracked him down. He was ready to use the weapons on the ship to blast them down before they even was able to land. But before then, Before he was about to get ready to shoot this particular ship down, he received a message. Only a few words. John, this is Catherine. And even that he wished this to be true. He demanded proof, and shortly a holographic image appeared in the ship, and it was Catherine. And he felt relieved. He was so close to be pulling the trigger and firing at her ship. He was so relieved and even happy to see her. But he asked her if she had been followed. But she explained her plan to do so, where how she left and she had found she went on the most busiest planets, but aboard another ship, and the followers never found her. Even after that, John and Catherine now were living together on Orion. There were a lot of things that they both missed. The both of them wished that they could go back to their home planets, but they knew that was too dangerous, especially for John's case. But even that, even it meant he would be staying there forever on Orion. But to him, he wouldn't be alone. So for the next 2 years on the planet Orion, John and Catherine had this amazing life together. They had built a bigger home just for themselves. And everything was just perfect. John had started to living as a farmer, which he didn't mind because even it was very difficult for him to even get used to live as a farmer. But after about the 2 years on the 4 years on the planet, he gets used to it. But one day, the ship's warning alarm setting off a second time. This time, it was a bigger ship, and he thought maybe it was a military transport or any perhaps a battle cruisers or anything. But turns out that it was nothing like that. It was actually a civilian transport ship. But in fact, it wasn't even just a transport. It was a colony ship. This colony ship had been looking for a new planet to colonize, and they thought this planet was abandoned or even inhabited by anyone. But when they discovered two ships, and even there were a settlement, or at least one building on the planet, they thought maybe this planet was already been inhabited, but they decided to land. John was very curious about this, but also very cautious. So he avoided any contact with his people. But Catherine, otherwise, she actually reached out to his colonists. And they were actually very friendly. And they were just simple farmers. They didn't want to have anything. They left their planet to find a new settlement to be on colony far away as possible from the military presence. They thought maybe to live a simple life as farmers as possible, as far as remote from anyone. Even that John was very skeptical about this. But after some time, he managed to open up to his people, and they had started to build a small settlement. And shortly enough, this colony had around 4,000 people on the ship. And the colony itself was getting well. John and Catherine, by the way, they had decided maybe it was time to just take the next step in the relationship. They had been living together for about 2 years on the planet. So they had asked one of the priests of the colony to marry them, which he did. But even though that Catherine and John was now married, they decided just to live in their small farm, even it was just located only short distance from the main settlement. Even after all this time, John he had decided maybe it was time to train some of the settlers to be able to resist any sort of fight. Even the colonist leader were much about against the entire idea of training his colonists in fight. But John explained, at least have them trained only in self-defense, not as it would be in soldiers, just to be able to defend themselves against any predators of the planet or any other visitors from far away from the colony. After he managed to convince the leader, which he did, John opened a small school where he trained some of the students there. Some of us teens and even adults. And even much of the population of the colonies were very much didn't like this idea. But they at least noticed how much the students actually liked to be trained by him. He even didn't only train them in self-defense. He even trained them about survival in the nature, just in case if something would happen. And that was something people in town or in the settlement are very much grateful open up to. They saw how much the students actually loved to be trained how to be surviving in the nature if something would happen to the colony or something. Around the same time when John was training students, Catherine was pregnant and they were expecting a baby girl. And a few months after, they actually had a baby girl, which they named Allison. But when the Allison was about 4 years old, they had a boy, which they named John Jr. Even John was very much happy to be married and having a family with his own family. But it didn't take one single day when he was curious and even worried if the military would find him, or at least the fight team with Cyrus. But that never happened. Fireteam Osiris or the military never bothered to look on this particular planet because they knew that these colonists were just farmers and there was nothing else. No big settlement. It was just only a 4,000 settlement people. So they didn't bother to even look on this planet because it was so far remote from any bigger major planet's colonies. After all this time, John, for once in his life, felt happy that he had what he wanted the most now: a wife, a family, a new purpose. Even he no longer was a soldier. Now he was a farmer, but also a teacher of in the survival of in the wild. And for that, he was fully respected by the people in the colony, and they respected him. In fact, he gets so much respect from everyone. They never would ever betray him, which never did happen. And that's how John 117 and Catherine Halsey found a true love, got a big family. The end.